50 years. Technology particularly, communications particularly, developing at an accelerating pace. And one might say, well, the way we're going, what's coming next over the next very few years? And really from our own experience, we can see this process of development going on almost day by day at the present time. It's also our experience that everything seems to be going so much faster. And at this time now, we're beginning to say, well, where's it all going? In fact, if we really started connecting all the dots, we'd say, well, okay, come about 2012, then it's just going to get mad. Where on earth is it all going to lead? And this is really the purpose of me doing the series of videos, to provide those kind of answers. Because according to the Mayan calendar, it's the completion of really the whole creation, the completion of the evolution of consciousness. And where will that take us? How will we be in 2012? Well, the Mayan calendar 9 main cycles provides clues to the answers to that. Because in the first cycle, which started 16.4 billion years ago, the first living cells were created. Then in the second cycle, beginning 800 million years ago, the first real beings, the first animals, first creatures evolved. So the second cycle is called the mammalian or mammal cycle. The third cycle is when the first families of creatures, the first species, developed. And then the fourth cycle is when really is when humanity developed. The fifth cycle is when humanity began to get an idea of the wider area or context in which he lived. So it's called the regional cycle. And then the seventh cycle is called the planetary. No, beg your pardon. The sixth cycle is called the national cycle. So this is where humanity began to identify with the nation, the country in which they lived. The seventh cycle is where we began to be aware that we live on a planet, that it's a small planet, that we have a responsibility to the planet because it's the only one we've got. And it's where all these environmental issues began to develop, saving the planet, the planetary ecology, all these environmental issues. Then the eighth cycle is called the galactic cycle. That's the one that started in 1999, where we learn more about the galaxy because we have the Hubble telescope and so on. We learn that there are other planets around other suns. We get some idea of just how big the galaxy is and how many planets there could be in the galaxy, and are we alone? Could there be other life in the galaxy? And then the final cycle, which lasts for just 10 months in 2011, is called the universal cycle, where presumably at that time we'll begin to be aware of the entire universe, that we are part of that. It's the time when maybe we'll meet other people from other places in the galaxy or the universe. Begin to be aware that perhaps our own existence, our own personal existence, has a universal context in some way. which would perhaps suggest something outside of our physical bodies, perhaps more on the level of our consciousness. Perhaps it might suggest spiritual existence rather than physical. So this is the kind of process and the development of consciousness and awareness that the Mayan calendar sets out. And I'm just giving you a very general overview here because there's too much detail to go into, and I'd encourage you to start reading some of the detail. I'm not on commission to sell Carl Kellerman's books, but they're very good in those terms. They do set out that whole process, comparing it to history as we know it. And he has a website which is www.callerman.com. That's C-A-L-L-E-M-A-N, Callerman.com. But as I said, the main reason for talking about this is to answer the question, well, what's 2012 all about? Why is it so big? And the reason is that according to the Mayan calendars, the process that started at the time of the Big Bang ends on 21st of December 2012. So it's about as big as it can get.